Hey everyone, welcome to our Federico Answers Questions video. And where do the questions come from? They come from my Discord channel, where I asked some time ago to my Patreon to ask me some questions and I will answer them. So let's start with the first question. It's from my dear patron, Anima Noir. Will there be a book for Jitter in the similar vein as Generating Sound and Organizing Time, which is a great book? I never read it, but I know that is a great book. I want to read it actually. I just had to get my hands on it. Will there be a book for Jitter? I don't know. I have no idea. If the question is, will I write that book? The answer is no, definitely not at the moment. I don't plan to write books because I'm super bad with long-term projects, so not a thing. Okay, so let's go to the second question from Anima Noir again. How exactly does the blending modes work? In the sense that the pairing is confusing. Also for the poly mode. Okay, let's start with this first one. The blending modes, it's indeed kind of confusing. I totally understand where this is coming from. So let's make an example. Let's create a GGL grid shape. And there we got our shape. Let's actually create two of them. And let's put one a bit on the right. This is an attribute, of course. So let's put this one a bit on the right. So 1.500. And let's put the other one a bit on the left, minus 1.500. Okay. No, I actually want for them to overlap, but okay, I can just move a bit my camera. And, all right. I can just move my camera a bit. And let's make this a cube. And let's give it this a color red. Right. And let's give this other color green or something. Okay, cool. So there is the GGL grid shape. What Anima Noir is asking is about the blend attribute of the blend mode attribute of the GGL grid shape. So first thing first, we should enable the blend if we want to see how the blending modes work. So blend enable 1 for that, and blend enable 1 for that too. Okay, cool. So there is this attribute which is called blend mode. And there is a couple of numbers. Now, how do we know what these numbers do? Well, if we go in help and reference, and we look for blending, we land on this page, which is polygon modes, colors, and blending. And there is a section of this tutorial which explains us what these numbers are. So it tells us here, the source and destination blend factors are RGBA quadruplets which are multiplied component-wise by the RGBA values of the source and destination pixel respectively. The corresponding components of the source and destination are added and then clamped to the range 0,1 to produce the output pixel. Okay, so we have a source and a destination. So the first number is for the source, the second number is for the destination. And this decides in which way the color of the source and the destination will be visualized on the screen by selecting some multiplication modes that will be applied to the source and destination colors. So you have to think about the destination like an image. So this will be our destination. And this is where all the pixels have already been rendered until that point. What do I mean until that point? That's because the rendering in computers happens in a certain order. So we first have one shape, for example, the cube, then we could have another shape, then another shape rendered, then another shape rendered. So this happens in an order first to last. Cube will be first, and there is another shape, then there is another. For example, if we have our sphere, and this is closer to the camera, then our sphere will be rendered later than the cube. If the cube is closer to the camera, then the sphere will be rendered first, so before of the cube, and then the cube will be rendered, and so on. So if we have our sphere as the source, this will be the source, and the destination is all the pixels that have already been rendered, including the background, we can use the rendering modes in Max to mix between the source, so the object that we are currently, that the Max is currently rendering, and the destination, which is all the pixels that have already been rendered. So from the documentation here, if we say the source is set to 0, so if we set this value of the source to 0, it means we are multiplying the source color, so the color of our sphere, by 0. So it just disappears, becomes black. And if we multiply the destination by 1, it means that basically the source disappears completely. We just have the destination, which are the pixels that were already rendered. If we set the source and destination by 1, the documentation tells us that they will be both multiplied by 1 and added and clumped between 0 and 1. So when we add red and green, they become yellow. Okay, so let's see some other blending modes. 2, GL dist destination color, and this only applies to the source. So if we set the source to 2, it means it's going to be multiplied, the pixels of the sphere are going to be multiplied by the color of the destination. So the background is kind of grayish, so if we multiply the sphere by the grayish color, it becomes kind of grayish green. If we would have the color of the background as kind of lighter, we will multiply the color of the sphere for a lighter value, so this will become also more bright. But when we multiply it by the red color, the green basically disappears, because the red color is a vector that has 1, 0, 0, 1. So if we multiply it by another vector component-wise, so for the green vector, which looks like this, we have a vector that is 0 for the first value, 0 for the second, 0 for the third, and 1 for the alpha. So the green value, so the color of the source, when multiplied by the red color of the cube, just disappears, basically becomes 0. If we would have the color of the cube a bit different, then this will be multiplied by the color of the source will be multiplied by this violet thing and then added to it, and we will have this kind of color here. Cool. Let's see another mode, source color, and this only applies to the destination. So let's set the source to 1 and the destination to 3, and this gives us the source color. So the destination, so let's actually set the source to disappear. So the destination will be multiplied, in this case, by the source color. If we will have a destination color of white, this simply becomes the color of the source. If we will have it by red, as we said before, this becomes 0. So yeah, then we can have all the things in between. If we will have white, we will just have the color of the source, because this will be basically multiplied by 1 and then added to the color of the destination, which is set to 3. So this gets the color of the source. So this will be multiplied by the color of the source, so then when it's clumped, I guess it becomes green. So let's see number 4, 1 minus destination color. Okay, so this applies to the source. Okay, so if we set this to 4, the source, and the destination to 0, so we only have the color of the source, this will be 1 minus the destination color. So if we will have white, 1 minus 1 becomes 0. And this multiplied by the source color will give us 0. And if we will have a background also white, then the source color will also be multiplied by 0 exactly. Okay, so you always have to think in terms of what is the source and what is the destination, according to what is rendered after what. And as we say, the shapes that are closer to the camera are rendered after shapes that are farther normally. Unless we have unless we have depth enabled set to 0 on as the attributes here, then only the layer attribute makes the order of rendering. Okay, but yeah, this is how it works. If we will have the destination set to 1, then the destination color will always be the color of the destination, and then they will be summed together and give us the white as before. So let's see 1 minus source color for the destination here. So this is the same thing, but for the destination. So if you will set the source to 0, the destination will be 1 minus the color of the green sphere. So 1 minus that green will give us this kind of purple color when added against the background, and against the red it will just give us the red. So let's see what there is. Then alpha, source alpha. Okay, so this only is based on the alpha of the shape. So if we will set the alpha of our shape to something very low, so this is the alpha of our source, we set it to something low. This means that our source will be rendered with a much less brighter color, because basically we are multiplying the color by the alpha. 7 is 1 minus the source alpha. So if we set it to the destination, we will have a perfect blending of the two pixels, the source and the destination, because this will be 1 minus the color of the shape, which will set it to white, becomes so if we set this to white and set the opacity to like 25, basically we get 1/4 of our source shape and 3/4 of the destination color. Because this is multiplied by 0.25 and the destination is multiplied by 0.75, and so these, when they are summed together, then it gives us this blending. Okay, and so on. Basically, this is then the 8, for example, is the destination alpha. This applies to both. And if we set the destination alpha to something low, I thought this was also going to be multiplied. The source was also going to be multiplied by that alpha value, so it would disappear as well. But this doesn't seem to be the case. So yeah, interesting. Maybe I got that wrong. Now, if this all seems confusing, it's because it kind of is. So Max provides us with a nice attribute, which is called just blend. And this has a bunch of blend mode already encoded, which we can see how they look like in numbers when if we check the blend mode attribute. So each one of those correspond to a different blend mode. For example, 1 and 1 is just both them multiplied by 1 and then added together. And then we have color blend, alpha blend is kind of the alpha. I'm pretty curious how it is. Okay, so it takes the alpha of the source and adds it to the destination, basically, the resting. And then we have alpha blend, which is kind of the same, isn't it? Oh no, it's actually 6 and 7, so the classic alpha blending. Cool. I hope this answered the questions. I know it was a bit confusing, but this page really helps, so check it out. If you guys are still have some uncertainty about what we just talked about. Cool. And let's go on with the next question. Again from Anima Noir. Also for the poly mode, I just know that 1.0 removes the phases, just the lines, but I wonder, is there any more secret hidden in that permutation? First of all, permutation is a very beautiful word. Very, very good use of it also. Nice. I didn't really know about this word, and I discovered something new, which I like. Great. So the poly mode, there's really not much secret to it. It just works like this. It makes the objects render in different ways. So the polygons rendered in different ways. So yeah, 1 will mean that we render the front face and the back face as lines and 2 as points. And that's really what there is to it. There is not really much more. So that's pretty easy. Let's move to some more questions. We skip some. Anima Noir has still some questions, but I will skip them for the moment. Move a bit on to Drake. Best practices with naming and organizing nodes, textures, objects, patches, projects, etc. Your patches are always so neat and tidy and efficient. Well, thank you very much. I take it as a very good compliment. So best practice with naming and organizing nodes. Okay, so this is really subjective because everyone has its own style, his own conventions, and what he or she prefers to write. There's really no general rule. I just use some rules that come from programming languages, standard programming languages. So, for example, there is this thing called camel case, I guess, something like that, which means you write something like, value cool. And camel case in the sense that you have a small letter for the first word and then a capital letter for the second word. And if you have more words, then these are all written then with a capital letter to differentiate from them. And I am a big fan of giving meaningful names to variables. So, for example, if we have a sender, we just give it a name like D or something, just a letter, but we try to give it a meaningful name. So, like this is like audio from Sub Patcher, from Reverb Sub Patcher, for example. Okay, so that's one thing. I'm a big fan of giving to variables names that are meaningful, and so we can remember what this is actually about. Then there is this other way of writing variables, which I don't know exactly how it's called, but it's like this, using underscore, and this is what you will find in mostly like C and kind of sort of older programming languages writing style, I will say. And this is another way of separating, naming variables and stuff. I prefer the camel case, but in Max you often will find, exactly like blend enable, you will find it separated by a underscore. You will not find the attributes written like blend enable like that. So Max uses this underscore convention, for example. So the thing is really just to decide how you want to name your stuff, like nodes and the textures, objects, and just stick to it. Just always use the same convention. Give very meaningful names to stuff. Don't be scared to write very long name. So, for example, if I have a GGL node here and I give it a name and I call it node, spheres, and cubes, something like that. And this makes me right away understand what this node is for, what is rendering to, what is used to render what. So that's my advice about naming and organizing stuff. We could extend that to using sub patches. So I'm a big fan of sub patches. I mean, sub patches are kind of the bread and butter of Max, and I use them everywhere I can because they are very good to keep the patches organized, and also abstractions are really good if you use the same patch multiple times, because if you change one thing in an abstraction, it's going to be changed for all the abstractions, and if you will use sub patches, you will have to modify all the sub patches manually. So it's much better to use abstractions in case you use the same sub patches multiple times. Okay, we got a very nice one from Dario, and I will close with that one. I will make more videos and answer the the questions that I haven't answered yet, but I want to keep these videos short. So I will close with that one. I'm interested in this question. Nowadays, despite the fact that there's no one programming language app to approach every scenario as the same, it will be nice to have your opinion in regards of the different apps and programming languages that are commonly used: Touch Designer, P5.js, Unity, etc., and GLSL, C++, JS, etc. Wow. Well, I don't have an opinion on all of this stuff. I don't know all of them, although I actually do, but I don't have a strong opinions in all of those. Okay, so Touch Designer, I never used it really. I think it's very great for working with real-time graphics, so basically what we do with Max in my channel. I tried to use it and I found its system a bit awkward of using these three different sort of operators that you have there. So you have like texture operator, mop, channel operators. I had to look it up because I don't remember at all about this stuff. But yeah, it uses this system of operator, which is you kind of have to get into it, I think. But once you get it, I'm sure this is awesome. And the Touch Designer provides you a lot of infrastructure for visuals that Max doesn't give you right out of the box. You have to work on it to get the good stuff. So Touch Designer could be kind of faster maybe to achieve some things, but in the end, they are very similar system how they work with the Macs. And so, yeah, Touch Design is great. I don't like that you cannot export your applications as a standalone. This is very not so cool when you want to make installations. Like with Max is great. You will make an installation, export it as a standalone, or even as a patcher with, you can get the free runtime of Max, so you can always run patches on whatever computer without being registered. And with Touch Designer, you cannot do that, or at least last time I checked, you could not do that. So this was a big minus point for me with Touch Designer, because when I work making an installations for some place, then I want to leave the program there, and you can do this very nicely with Max, but you cannot do it with Touch Designer. So big minus there. And P5JS, which is basically processing on JavaScript on the web, it's great. Yeah, processing is very cool. And P5JS is very nice to create like canvas animations and graphics. I used it for some projects. I found it very nice and easy to work with. You get the same stuff which you get with WebGL, I think, because it's based on WebGL. So yeah, it's always OpenGL at the end of the fair. Yeah, this is what we have in Max as well. So yeah, it's just another way of writing stuff. So if you prefer to writing with JavaScript, you can do it also in Max with scripting with JavaScript, but you can use P5 if you want to have something running on the web. So P5 for running stuff on the web is definitely great if you don't want to write your own WebGL programs or HTML canvas stuff. Unity, well, Unity is a game engine, so it's very different. I have a bit more experience with Unity, and Unity is very different from the two stuff that we talked about, Touch Designer at P5. So Unity is a full-fledged game engine. It has always stuff which are related to gaming. It works a lot more with assets than in a procedural way. So it's not really about procedural. I mean, you can use it as a procedural engine, but it's mostly working with assets. Has a lot of nice features for organizing stuff in games, like pathfinding, algorithms built in, sort of built in. You have like nice working with sprites for 2D games. Gives you a lot of tools for working with sprites and lights. You have some post-processing effects out of the box, as we do in Max actually. And then, yeah, you can really organize big amount of data in a nice way. So Unity, yeah, is great if you want to have, like interfaces is also very nice to create with the Unity. So like gaming interfaces, like menus and all this kind of stuff is really nice to work with Unity. I love that you can have buttons that in the GL window you can just click on buttons and they will give you actions. They will give you like callback functions inside C#, and you can program it with C#, which is really nice. Some very nice programming languages, and it's faster than JavaScript. So yeah, Unity is great. It makes a lot of fun. I'm actually working on some games at the moment just for my personal fun and knowledge. So I love Unity. Now, GLSL, C++, okay, these are just programming languages. GLSL is the programming languages for shaders in OpenGL, which you have seen probably in a lot of my tutorials. It's great for working with pixels. So if you want to work with pixels and vectors and vertices, GLSL is the program to use in Max. And C++ is a full-fledged programming language. It's like old school for writing applications. So you can write every type of application with C++. You can write like missile launching softwares, and you can write video games, engines, you can write whatever. But is kind of big, and if you want to use it on a professional level, C++ is very difficult. It takes years to learn, so it's much more difficult than JavaScript, for example. So JavaScript is kind of this friendlier programming languages, which has not many quirks. I mean, it has its quirks, but you can learn it in like 1 month, and you will be proficient in JavaScript, and then you can keep learning some more. Like you can learn then all the array iterators, functions, and all this sort of stuff. But mostly you can learn JavaScript in 1 month and be proficient. So yeah, it doesn't really, at the end of the fair, it doesn't really matter what you use to create your art or pieces or installations. It just matters what you are used to, what you like to work with, and what makes you more fun, because in the end it's all the same stuff. You just have to learn one, go on with it, become good, and then you can do everything you want with either of the stuff mentioned here by Dario. Anyway, I guess enough of my blubbering. I will answer the questions that I haven't answered on the next video. In the meantime, if you would like to also ask me some questions like that about Max, I invite you to join my Patreon. For a little, very little monthly fee, you can join my Discord channel and participate in the discussions, and you can also download a lot of my patches. Depending on the tier, you can download more complex patches. And yeah, like to the video and subscribe to the channel would be much appreciated if you haven't yet. Thanks a lot for following into this Federico answering questions stuff. So yeah, I hope you like this strange format of a video, mixed of tutorial and general kind of computer graphics stuff. And I hope to see you in the next video. Let's see you soon. Ciao.